Unlocking your potential. Why so many brilliant minds remain stuck and how to break free. We all know the human mind is capable of incredible things, limitless, really, yet so many people fall short. Is it bad luck, a rigged system, or something deeper, a subtle mental weakness that silently sabotages success? If you've ever felt trapped by procrastination, self-doubt, or the comfort of the status quo, listen up. This isn't about blaming external forces. It's about building an unbreakable mindset, drawing from the wisdom of personal development giant Napoleon Hill. I'll show you 3 simple, proven steps and a 7-day challenge that could change your life. Let's cut to the chase. How often do you let self-indulgence derail your progress? How many seemingly reasonable excuses have you used to avoid discomfort? Phrases like, "I deserve a break," "not today," or "I'm not ready yet," are insidious poisons, creating a false sense of security that gradually pulls you away from your goals. True mental fragility begins with this silent self-permission, the small gap between what you should do and what you postpone. That gap widens, becomes habit, and habit becomes identity. Before you know it, you believe you weren't meant for greatness, that opportunities just aren't for you, that your potential is limited. That's a lie. Napoleon Hill himself warned against complacency, that insidious inner voice urging comfort over challenge is your deadliest enemy. It doesn't scream, it whispers, and its subtlety is its greatest danger. Complacency shows up in 1,000 tiny ways, hitting snooze even when you have commitments, procrastinating on a life-changing project, scrolling through social media instead of reading. Here's the hard truth. Every small decision is a vote for weakness. And the worst part, no one's coming to rescue you. There's no savior, not your boss, your family, or fate. You either take responsibility for building a stronger mind, or you watch others live your dreams. Strong minds aren't a privilege of the fortunate, but a product of rejecting shortcuts. They say, if it's hard, great, that means I'm on the right track. Difficulty becomes the compass. Still skeptical? Consider Thomas Edison, often cited by Hill. He failed thousands of times before the light bulb. Most people quit after 3 or 4 tries. Edison's response? I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That mindset is everything. He embraced the discomfort of trying again when the world would have understood if he'd stopped. This isn't just for geniuses. This strength is accessible to anyone willing to endure the pain of growth. Yes, it hurts, but the regret of wasted years hurts more. The pain of watching others achieve similar dreams and knowing you could have too but chose complacency stings the most. Science backs this up. A University of Chicago study showed that people with high self-control and mental resilience achieve greater financial and personal success than those with just natural talent. In other words, raw intelligence matters less than the ability to confront yourself. A little-known fact about Napoleon Hill, commissioned by Andrew Carnegie to interview the titans of industry, he spent over 2 decades writing Think and Grow Rich without a penny in his pocket. Imagine 2 decades of unseen toil, labeled a dreamer, a fool, a charlatan, sometimes living in poverty. Yet he persevered because he understood the outside world only changes after the mind strengthens within. That burning anger you feel right now might be a good sign. It's your mind waking up, realizing this isn't working. No more coddling. No more waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is when you stand up and say, enough. Overcoming mental weakness begins with looking in the mirror and admitting complacency has defeated you. Want to win? Then toughen up. Not against the world, but against yourself. Those who seek results don't negotiate with weakness. They act. Why do so many intelligent, talented, well-intentioned individuals fail to progress? Because they live without clarity. They wake up, do what they can, put out fires, follow routines, and end the day exhausted, having made no real progress toward their dreams. What Napoleon Hill called motion without purpose, one of the most dangerous forms of stagnation. You can be busy, but that doesn't mean you're making progress. Stop and ask yourself, where do you want to be in 3 years? Earning more, being happy, living better are too vague. They don't ignite anything. A strong mind needs direction, not abstract desires. Hill stressed, success begins with clarity of purpose. He saw it in Edison, Ford, Carnegie. All had a defined, vivid, specific objective, not a dream, a mission. Without clearly defining what you want, you hand control of your life to chance. And what does chance do with those who don't take a stand? It pushes them aside. It keeps you on autopilot, repeating the same days, months, and years. Wake up, work, pay bills, wait for the weekend, and life slips away. Napoleon Hill said, if you don't write your goals down, they don't exist. It sounds simple, but there's the secret. People overcomplicate things, seeking sophisticated techniques, ignoring the basics that work. The brain needs a North Star. When you clearly define what you want, your reticular activating system, a sort of mental radar, begins filtering opportunities you'd previously missed. You see pathways once invisible. Henry Ford had a crystal-clear vision. He was obsessed with it. He wanted to put the world on wheels. At a time when cars were luxury items, he dared to envision a future where every worker could own one. This was ludicrous to many, but not to him. He didn't improvise. He knew where he was going. The how he figured out along the way. Crucial point, you don't need all the answers now, just a clear direction. Many say, I don't know what I want. That's okay, it's more common than you think. But a lack of clarity can't be a life sentence. If you don't know what you want, find out, reflect, experiment, write, sketch scenarios. Return to what motivates you, frustrates you, makes you proud. Don't accept this fog as permanent. The fog is comfortable, it protects from failure but prevents success. There's a silent trap. Sometimes you think you're progressing, but you're going in circles. Why? Your energy is dispersed. You want entrepreneurship, but also stability. You want growth, but not to give up comfort. You want results, but not to truly change. Everything stalls. Napoleon Hill compared this to sunlight through a magnifying glass. If the light is dispersed, nothing happens. But if focused, it ignites. This is especially true for those struggling financially. Most complain about money, but lack a defined plan. They say they want freedom, but don't know how much they need monthly, what income sources to pursue, or what skills to develop. You can't build prosperity without direction. Money is a consequence of clarity, focus, and execution. Science confirms this. Researchers at Dominican University in California found that people who write down their goals clearly and review them frequently have a 30 to 40% higher chance of achieving them than those who just think about them. It's not magic, it's neurology. Clarity creates emotional engagement, and that generates action. Willpower without direction is disguised frustration. Lack of clarity makes you vulnerable to manipulation. Without knowing where you're going, any path seems acceptable. You fall into the hands of others, bosses, governments, relationships, who dictate your destiny. You become a pawn in a game you don't even know you're playing, and you wonder why you're unhappy, tired, lost. Napoleon Hill lived this. Before inspiring millions, he faced crises, uncertainty, and extreme poverty. After years of hard work, he hit a rough patch that made him consider giving up. But that's when he did the exercise he always recommended. He isolated himself in silence and wrote down exactly what he wanted to achieve, why, and what he was willing to do for it. It changed everything. He reconfigured his mind and returned with full force. Maybe that's what you need, a blank piece of paper, a moment of brutal honesty with yourself. Write, what do I truly want? Be specific, add dates, add numbers, add the why, and repeat daily until it becomes part of your identity. Without clarity, you live by inertia. With clarity, you live with purpose. And a mind with purpose isn't swayed by complacency, distractions, or excuses. It moves forward. Most people misunderstand mental strength. They think it's about being born brave, confident, invincible. But true mental strength is built in the crucible of difficulty. When you fail, are humiliated, criticized, rejected, and still choose to continue. This strength emerges from friction, pain, and the decision not to stop, even when everything screams surrender. Unbreakable resilience, according to Napoleon Hill. No one is immune to setbacks. No matter how much you plan, prepare, or visualize, life will test you. And it won't ask if you're ready, it will hit hard. And what determines your destiny isn't the blow, but what you do after you fall. Weak people see failure as an ending, strong people as a step. The weak say, it wasn't meant to be. The strong ask, what can I learn from this? Napoleon Hill was categorical. Adversity carries the seed of an equivalent benefit. But that seed only blossoms for those who keep digging, even when there seems to be nothing but dry earth. Thomas Edison, for example, tried thousands of times before the light bulb. Thousands. Not 5, not 50. Thousands of failures. Each one, for the average person, would be reason to quit. But he possessed something most don't cultivate: mental resilience. He believed failure was a detour, not the end of the journey. How many times have you stopped because you weren't getting results fast enough? Started a diet and quit the second week. Created a channel, got discouraged by low views. Took a course but dropped out. Most people live like this, trying, stopping, trying again, and stopping at the same point, because they believe that if it's hard, it wasn't meant to be. The opposite is true. Difficulty is the thermometer of growth. Discomfort indicates you're evolving. Resilience isn't resisting for a while and then giving in. It's continuing, without support, without recognition, without energy. Not letting pain dictate your next step. And the incredible thing? Science proves this strength can be developed. Studies from the University of Pennsylvania show that people who train their emotional resilience cope better with failure, suffer less from anxiety, and have greater success. It's not a gift, it's practice. How do you develop this strength? First, stop identifying with your failures. You are not the mistake, the failed business, or the criticism received. You are the response you give to it. Second, start reinterpreting difficult situations as training. Everything that challenges you is preparing you for something greater. But if you can't handle it now, you won't be ready later. A little-known story about Napoleon Hill. At one point, after years dedicated to the work that would become Think and Grow Rich, Hill was persecuted by political and economic forces who wanted to silence his message. He was bankrupt, facing serious personal struggles, and had to go into hiding with his family. Imagine having a dream, investing years in it, and when you're close to realizing it, being forced into exile for fear of reprisals. Anyone would have given up. But he not only didn't give up, he came back stronger. He finished his work, published it, and impacted millions. Because he didn't let difficulties define his destiny. This applies to you too. Every time you get up, you become stronger, more prepared, more aware of your capabilities. Strong people aren't cold. They feel pain, they cry, they break, but they continue because they understand that there's no real growth without pressure, and that every failure is an invitation to climb another step. Life isn't perfect, it's meant to be faced. You won't become mentally strong while continuing to give up at the first obstacle. So the next time something goes wrong, and it will, remember, pain is temporary, but the regret of giving up will last a lifetime. Don't run from discomfort, run toward it. Because every time you choose to continue, even when it would be easier to stop, you're not just overcoming a challenge, you're building the most powerful version of yourself. You can have the best plan, the best intentions, the greatest will, but without action, nothing changes. Napoleon Hill was blunt. Action is the separating point between dreamers and achievers. That's the difference between those who achieve results and those who imagine a better life while everything stays the same. Most people don't fail for lack of knowledge, but for lack of movement. They wait for the perfect moment, more money, more security, someone's approval. But while they wait, life passes, and with it, opportunities. Why does this happen? Because acting requires courage. And mental softness, that subtle trait we don't even notice, will always try to stop you from moving. It's clever. It doesn't say, don't do anything. It says, think more. Now isn't the best time. Wait until Monday. And you believe it. A day passes, a week, a month, and the year is over. And that project, that course, that life change remain in the realm of intentions. The worst? You feel busy. Softness gives you little tasks to deceive you. You answer emails, organize folders, watch motivational videos without touching what matters. Then comes frustration because you feel you're making an effort, but nothing happens. Of course not. You're in motion, but without progress. Some people spend their lives busy, never leaving the spot. Napoleon Hill brilliantly explained, many people prepare to act, but never act. They wait for more confidence, more clarity, more time. But clarity comes with movement. Confidence grows with risk. Time will never be perfect. Never. Strong minds understand this. They know the time to act is when the idea arises, when desire ignites, when intuition screams. Because if you don't act quickly, your brain will sabotage you. It will raise 1,000 reasons to postpone. Why? Acting means relinquishing control, and the brain hates losing control. It wants security, comfort, predictability. But the life you want will never be on the side of security. Think of Steve Jobs. He didn't wait for college to end. He didn't even finish it. He acted based on a vision few saw. While others wanted stability, he wanted impact. He had no guarantees, but he had momentum. And that momentum was more valuable than any diploma. Think how many people every year have incredible ideas, bold visions, and let them die for lack of action. The difference between a billionaire visionary and someone who only dreams is simple. One acts, the other waits. This isn't about impulsive action, but about developing the habit of moving, even with fear, without guarantees. The act of acting strengthens your mind because you teach yourself not to depend on perfect emotions to get moving. This creates the identity of someone who does, solves, executes. An impressive study from Harvard Business School. People who make quick decisions, even if imperfect, are more likely to reach high levels of success than those who overanalyze. Because action generates feedback, and feedback generates learning. Stagnation teaches nothing. There comes a time when you'll realize you're losing more by not acting than by acting and failing. Because every time you hesitate, you send a message to your subconscious saying, I don't trust myself. And that message accumulates until you doubt your ability before even trying. And when doubt becomes habit, failure becomes destiny. Napoleon Hill lived this. After years studying great geniuses, he stalled when it came to putting it all into practice. He kept the manuscript of Think and Grow Rich in a drawer for years, insecure whether people would accept his work. Hit rock bottom? Been there. Completely broke, emotionally drained and facing a mountain of impossible odds. Yeah, me too. But then something shifted. I stopped waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect anything. I just started. And that leap of faith, that raw, unadulterated action, changed everything. Not just for me, but for countless others whose lives intersected with mine. You don't need a fully funded startup or a foolproof strategy. You just need to start with what you have. A phone camera can launch a career. An email can forge a new path. A vulnerable conversation can mend a broken bridge. Inertia is the enemy. That nagging voice whispering, "Wait until tomorrow. You're not ready," is a liar. Screw the waiting game. The world doesn't reward the perfectly prepared. It rewards the bold, the brave, the ones who dare to act despite the fear. Because fear fades. Regret lasts forever. So stop being nice to yourself. That's the critical turning point. Steel your resolve and everything changes. Clarity emerges, action follows, resilience blooms, and you become the person you were always meant to be. If this resonated with you, you're ready for more. The next video, playing now, will take you even deeper into this journey of self-empowerment and personal growth. Click it. Just be a little better today than you were yesterday. That starts with the next step. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one.